Yeah. So just to recap for those in the audience who might be confused as to what we're doing. Yeah. We are missing Mads and we are missing Matt today, which is a shame. We do miss him greatly. So what we thought we'd do is have a kind of recap session where we run through what's happened over the last 14 episodes and let the players... what did you call it? Initiate wild speculation or something?
Initiate wild speculation mode, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. And if you have any thoughts or questions, then please do throw them into chat. We're very happy to involve whatever you're talking about as well, as to what you think is going on. So I do have some quite interesting things that I dug up from earlier episodes, which I'll throw in now and then if you if you need them. But I'm happy to go with the flow.
What, have you got clips or something that you're going to play back?
That would be a great idea, but no, I don't. No, I have some. I have some things I'm pretty sure you've forgotten, but let's go with Chris Roberts' idea of throwing Kevin in the deep end.
Yeah. I mean, what would be your top? What would be your top? If you could ask one question, like, what would be your top question, or what theme would you like to explore the most?
What one question?
Yeah, well, around one topic, we've had lots of things that are really crazy that have worked up. So I've got it. There's a bunch of things that we could talk about, like how does the Golden Leaf Gang work, or what about dragons, or what about corruption, or anything about those things.
That sounds a bit small. Let's just go for the big picture stuff right away.
Yeah, let's have the big picture stuff first, and then we can get into the detail later and sort of structure it a bit more, so that it's
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, I came in on episode 7, I think I watched for the first time, or 6. Right. I'm not sure. So I haven't actually gone back ever since Simon and I started talking about me playing as well, because I didn't want to spoil anything unnecessarily. So I've actually been holding off watching the first, I think, 5 or 6 episodes. But the main thing that interested me immediately was corruption. Right, that's the major thing that happened. It was the episode with the crabs popped up, and then the whole ground just started to leak corruption, and I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, you've got me. So corruption is like half of my questions are about corruption and what it might be, and how it relates to deities and gods and all that sort of things.
Yeah, have you got any theory? I mean, like Chris, like, based on what we've got so far, is there anything that you feel that you can share on what we think corruption is that we've gained over the episodes that we've been playing? Because obviously we've been playing a lot longer than we've been coming into the Twitch streaming.
Yeah, but I still want to hear what Kevin has to say before I add anything.
Okay, what do you think?
Because I feel almost like I might taint it somehow.
I've written it down, so you can't actually change what I've written down.
I want to get it pure and unadulterated.
Okay, tell us what you think corruption is.
I have multiple theories, actually, so I'm looking out because that's where all my notes are. The first one that I spot is, could corruption be something that the dragons summon into existence? But I immediately had a clarifying question I needed to ask, because Matt told us when the Age of Dragons was, whether it was before or after the Age of Mystery, and I couldn't remember which one it was.
Right. I think the Age of Dragons was before the Age.
Before, right? That's what I thought.
I think there's like 6 ages of this world, and Age of Dragons is like, I want to say 3 that you said, Simon, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
This is the 6th age.
Right, and the Age of Dragons
right now.
was before the Age of Mystery, according to what?
Adalbert.
Yeah, Adalbert said it was the 3rd age.
Yeah, so the reason was, like, I was thinking about that, and I thought, okay, if it was before, and then there was Age of Mystery, and then the dragons were gone, then maybe it was something that they created, and the Age of Mystery is the time when they were containing it somehow, and then it's like stuck, maybe it's like a devourer deity that they created or summoned or whatever, that's now imprisoned somewhere.
I never really thought about it that way. I mean, I guess I really think, I mean, for me, I don't really I guess I haven't really thought if corruption has a intelligence behind it.
Yeah. So I have some stuff about that as well. So there seemed, because in the first episode I saw Algernon appeared, and that was super fascinating. Yeah, Algernon, as Alethea likes to say. But so I wondered, if he is a manifestation of corruption, or if he's indeed the one controlling it, right? Because I know that there was speculation in among the characters that he was the one controlling it, but what if he's a manifestation thereof, maybe a being that was corrupted and is an avatar of whatever power corruption represents? And then I thought, what if corruption indeed doesn't have an intelligence behind it, but is a power that all the gods can use, and that now, because there's a forgotten god, right? That's for the forgotten tribe. And then what if that one is now using it, and the Huntress is using it in her own way, and that's kind of the way that they struggle for power, or something like that. So.
I don't know that it seems that the Huntress is like 100% against corruption on account of Serene. Like, so Serene, we know, or she's told us, so, and this is where we get into whether the unreliable narrator part. So Serene is apparently a dragon hunter, okay? And she said that dragons are incredibly easily corruptible, right. And that is why they're stamping out dragons, because they're so easily corruptible. Having said that, I do want to just drop in one of my wild speculation things here at the moment, and I just think this is the best opportunity to do it. I don't think, or at least Zamar doesn't think, that what she thinks a dragon is what he thinks a dragon is. And the reason for that is I just wonder where she's talking about pure bloodlines, and she was looking at like Samita and saying you are potentially a dragon, and so I'm just wondering if you're like potentially descended from dragons, and that's what they think dragons are. Is these people who are descended from dragons, and therefore, because they're descended from dragons, they are inherently more corruptible. And that's what she means by being a dragon hunter. She's going out and looking at normal people and saying, you're of this particular bloodline, and I'm going to kill you because you're susceptible to being
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely
that's my big wild theory.
I can definitely see that. Although the fact that you guys found these huge bite marks, right, in the bodies,
full flaw in my theory,
did make me. But maybe it's connected, right? Maybe when the dragons, did whatever they did to stem corruption, they then integrated into society by shapeshifting, and then over time they hid themselves this way, and now they're being hunted for their blood and their ability to transform back into that original form.
What do you think, Chris?
Oh. I think you might have something there. The pure blood thing does suggest that somehow there are a bunch of people from this hidden country that are descended from dragons the way we think of them. Now, it is clear, however, from the princess that she can add extra arms and change her shape in a very physical kind of way.
Yeah.
So it seems reasonable to me to assume that she can also give herself some sort of outsized head with massive teeth, for instance. The head of a dragon, perhaps, on not necessarily a dragon body or something, because that would account for the damage to the crew of her ship.
I mean,
given that she actually admitted to killing them all.
Yeah.
She did. I mean, yeah, that's absolutely true. She did admit, and yet I think, like, if she did turn into a dragon on that ship, wouldn't it like just destroy the ship?
Yes, but I don't have the details. What did the ship itself look like when you guys found it? Because I haven't seen that part.
Simon, can you fill in the details?
Well, go ahead, Simon.
So the trireme itself has a large hold, but the side that you detected remnants of some kind of combat was within the rowing area. So there wasn't a great deal of room, but there was a fair amount of height.
And the ship wasn't destroyed or anything, you know, like the deck broken or whatever.
No. So if you have your traditional sort of 100-foot head to tail with a 40-foot wingspan or whatever, while you could fit it in theory into this trireme, it would all be snaked up and like unable to leave. It would be stuck.
This is what I was thinking. I was like, how did it get in there? And it
because if instead of transforming into a dragon as we think of them, you know, instead of getting 4 extra arms with blades on them, she transformed her head into a dragon's head on a humanoid body.
Yeah.
No, I know it sounds
creepy.
bizarre. However, that's what we're dealing with here.
yeah, I know. But, okay.
Then that would account for it. She could fit in the space. Because I think Serene hinted at something about transforming into different things. And I mean, you can always metagame it because dragons can shapeshift. So there's a thing that to me as a player suggests that Simon's put a spin on it to say that they can transform themselves physically into different shapes, some of which are the properties of dragons. And the 6 arms thing and the blades suggests a link between them and the Astravi, who also, strangely enough, seem susceptible to corruption, which is why Starrick doesn't seem very keen on getting involved in this fight.
Okay, so I hear you on to say that. The thing about the Astravi, so let's go back, let's put aside the whole idea that I don't think a dragon can fit in the trireme and that did that bite thing. So I'm not entirely convinced that whatever it was that killed those sailors was, yeah, exactly, obviously, yeah, big head with large bite. But I kind of like, I don't know what that would look like. It might be that she just transforms into a big dragon head, but it just seems highly implausible to me. But anyway, maybe I'll be proved wrong at some point. The thing that I was interested in was in the conversation that happened between, I think between Horathia and the Astravi that was carrying him back from when we were coming back to the ruined keep. There was a really interesting conversation there. And he said, like, you were talking about, oh, and she's got like 6 arms and she can float and things like that. And he thought about it for a long time and just went, princess. And for me, that came across as, that's what Princess Astravis can do. It's not that. So it was like I think he might have said royalty or something along those lines. In other words, part of the Astravi line, I feel, can do these things. It was like, what he was intimating at to me, and you can go back and like watch it, which is so great. But what he was intimating at it to me was that was just they didn't see it as being unusual, right? They didn't see it as being unusual, and they didn't like sort of go, oh right, why are we following this princess? We do because she just is. So it was almost like she's supposedly being a princess of the Astravi, and I think that's a property of her. So if she can transform and do a bite, I think that's because she can do the Astravi thing rather than she can be like a dragon or something like that.
Well, of course you might be right, but I mean, I take a different view because all the Astravi we've met so far, barring Starrick to a certain extent, have seemed pretty dim. They don't seem very bright.
Well, no, we met Lady Laird, if you forget, which nobody else.
Well, okay.
Briefly.
If she's technically Astravi, I mean, she's not exactly the same as Starrick in that lot, is she?
Well, no, that's what I think. I don't know.
Similarities.
But I don't think we know what females look like or do.
But, which is a fair point, because obviously it's wild speculation. But the soldiers at least have been extremely dim, or at least come across that way. And so, playing an actor who isn't actually stupid, I know I've said previously that he's stupid, he's not. But he's not very imaginative. And it seems to me, it's like, this is stuff I can't explain. It's because she's a princess. I don't know. You know, she's a princess in it. But they also said that Astravi that she wasn't their princess. So although I think there's some sort of link between them, maybe not in terms of genetics or whatever, but there's a similarity somewhere.
But I think that it's possible that
they're susceptible to corruption.
It's possible that she is a princess of just a different country from the world of Astravi or something like that. So just because she's not their princess, but because she's royalty, they have to follow. That would make sense as to why they were kneeling in front of her. But that Sturrock was a little bit grumpy about having to give her a lift.
Yeah, but I mean, so if it's a royalty thing, then does that mean that the Empress has superpowers that we're not aware of?
I don't. But the Empress is a human.
Well, okay, but
An elf,
the princess looks pretty human.
Sorry, an elf. Excuse me. Yes.
Sorry, the princess looks pretty humanoid. Shall I put it that way?
Apart from the bloody arms.
Well, yeah, but she lost them after I gave her away.
What if the Empress can lose them as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Or her own transformations. If they're all, what if all the royals have some kind of special blood in their bloodlines? Because you said she was corrupted and her father was corrupted. The Empress, I mean, and her father. So maybe they're also more susceptible to that sort of thing.
I mean, just running back, I do like the idea that, like, maybe, I mean, if you think about it, like, an age is a long time. I quite like the idea that maybe the Astravi came out of dragons or something, that there may be some heritage there. But I also find it interesting that obviously there is a bloodline there, particular to Princess Mayanara and yourself. In other words, she looked at you, like Serene, when she saw you, immediately went, actually, you could be a dragon. So there's obviously something, I mean, obviously it helps that you look exactly like...
Yeah, maybe she was just being racist. These two look alike, must be the same thing.
I know, although technically, although I'm not going to...
We do look alike, but...
Yeah, exactly. Technically, you clearly know each other and have very similar features, looking nearly identical in a lot of ways, which is something that I don't think we can go into too deeply on this without being in character. But I find that it was interesting, like that there was a certain set of features that Serene could see, unless Serene can see something that we can't. I don't know.
Well, I also find it interesting that, okay, if you consider that she's a princess, but she seems to be on the run, or at least away from her homeland. But I think in the interaction that she had with Reyna, there was a sort of, at least Reyna got the impression that she was, away from her homeland for different reasons. That she came to the Astravi, who then also specifically regard her as someone special to take care of. Like, that's, of all the places in the world to end up, that's quite a specific place to find yourself as her.
Which makes me wonder about the whole, that's not my princess, but still understood as being royal.
I didn't vote for her.
I obviously take a contrary position again, but it seemed to me that they weren't entirely sure why they were doing what she wanted.
Yeah.
So it seemed more like a magical influence to me than... yes, you're my princess, I'm going to do what you say, because they didn't seem very happy about it, exactly.
Yeah, but, like, people would do what our queen says if she asked them.
But most of the people who would do what the queen says would be super happy about it because they believe in the royal family and all that bollocks.
Right, but if there's...
statement.
But if there's the same thing with this, it's like the moment they found out it was there, Sturrock was like, he has to take... I mean, you're right. I don't think it really matters, though, to be honest, whether there's
it probably doesn't
over her versus whether they have to do it or something. Whether it's like historical and sort of part of their culture that you have to be obeisant to a princess, etc. I mean, we don't. The reality is that we haven't actually seen any female Astravi apart from apparently potentially this princess and or Lady Laird, both of which are, quotes, sort of nearly royalty.
Is it worth getting Simon to describe Lady Laird? I know the audience, so to speak, haven't encountered her, but for our benefit.
I think I would probably rather not.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, because they'll they're likely to. Yeah, they'll come into the story at some point in the future.
Okay.
It'd be good to introduce them as a. But to address your question behind your question, they look similar, but they are very different. So in terms of species, you can tell they're the same, but they have massive differences.
Did you guys see any of the current Ashtravi that you've been dealing with interact with this lady?
No.
Okay.
No, there was a brief moment where Zaymar and Horathia were in Lady Durain's tower, which I believe was in one of the earlier. Was it in one of the earlier episodes?
No, it was back pre.
It was in the dark times.
Background time. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lady Durain is a character who might be involved in the future, one way or another, and I'll leave it at that. And and we were at her tower, and we saw Lady Lycreen there, but she was in a it was in a formal setting. That, incidentally, was the first time that we met the Huntress as well.
Ah, okay. In person, or she spoke to you?
Well, okay, so now I've got another one of my crazy theories to come up. Okay, here we go with the next one. So I was trying to think back. So Simon, would it be okay for you to describe the final seconds of the previous session that we did, where the Huntress turns up? Would it be okay for you to describe?
I think I know why you're asking as well. Yeah, sure. So the Huntress turned up. Now, Samita, you were on a wall, and she appeared above you. She's actually, so you're crouched and sort of hiding. She's actually standing on the wall behind you. But she's a fairly well. She looks to you to be average height. She's wearing simple hunter's clothes, but the thing that you immediately drew your attention was a head of snakes and very bright yellow eyes.
When you mean by a head of snakes, could you describe that a little bit more?
Full Medusa, yeah. Okay. So it's dark, and she's only just appeared, and you've only had a brief look at this, but they are all cobra-like snakes.
Right. So there's two things. Like, first off, when we first met her in person and chatted to her, she definitely didn't have a head of snakes.
You would have remembered that, yeah.
I would have remembered.
Okay. That's not good for me.
I think I see where you're going with this, Chris. Carry on.
Yeah. Okay, do you? Because it's like, why don't you fill in, just in case?
Well, I think you might be suggesting that what we met before was not her in as much person as she is now. If that makes sense.
I think that is definitely possible. The other thing that I think is definitely possible is that we've only seen her in that form inside Lady Durain's tower. That was the first point that we met her, and it was also the second point that we met her, and both times she looked exactly the same. Now, that's not what I was actually alluding to. What I was alluding to
just me, then.
Was whether it is the first time that we saw her. And I remember right back in the very, very earliest of early times, when way before the stream started, a certain boat arrived carrying Serene for the first time into our harbour at Trillon. And on that boat, there was something with a head of snakes. I'm pretty sure. And that's what because I didn't know what to make of it at the time. There was a figure at the back of the ship that had what Simon described as a cowl of snakes. So it was like the cowl was made up of snakes, apparently. Do you remember this?
It does sound familiar, actually. I mean, I think I probably took it at the time to be a decoration of some kind.
Yeah.
So yeah, an interesting one.
Simon is going to be annoyingly mute on this, and we're never going to be able to turn up exactly what it was that he said. But yeah, that was, and the moment that Serene was, I suddenly was just going back and thinking, when was the first time we met Serene? And just running back, and I was like, oh my god, there was this thing with a head of snakes. What if that was the Huntress on the boat because that's what she looks like.
That Simon's got all this in audio, from the session that we ran.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. There is.
Man, I would love to listen to that someday.
Oh man, yeah.
We'll release it at some point for sure.
Yeah. So that was the thing that I suddenly was like, it was just the sort of the cowl of snakes, etc. I was just like, I wonder if we had the Huntress come into Trillin before. And maybe that's what she looks at when she's outside the tower, or maybe when she wants to just put on a show, or maybe when she just wants to travel. I don't know. But I thought that was quite interesting.
Okay.
No, very cool.
Yes, exactly. I won't mention the time where I think Zaymar tried to pick her pocket.
I think that was before you knew she was a god. Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. We were walking. It was in a because it was into Lady Dorain's tower and it was this sort of formal setting. I was walking across the room, and she basically started walking towards Zaymar, and Zaymar was like, "Oh," and I can't remember what it was, but he was going to go couldn't be sure whether she was going to have something on her belt that he was going to try and just rifle her pockets as he was going past, and basically it ended up in this massive face off where she was like this at me, and I was like, I'm just going to go straight past now.
It was a sort of dance she did, wasn't there? Potential.
We just sort of
mayhem.
down like this, face.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh, that was close. Yeah, don't pick the pocket of a god.
Well, if you do, then you should be successful.
Mind you, imagine the rewards if you were.
Oh my gosh, yes. So that was Zaymar's first run-in with the Huntress, with the meta for the first time or not. But, yeah.
So talking about first run-ins, I have a starting question which I thought might amuse me, mainly because I think you've forgotten. But episode 1, actually the first thing that happened, Galila brought a corpse of a strange crab to you. What the fuck was that? Where did that come from?
Yes. Well, that was the because So yes, that's true. Says Simon, trying to steer the conversation to other interesting.
No, that's cool. I was thinking we could start moving through the episodes now.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, there have been quite a lot of crabs. Or things that could just about be
spiders.
Crabs.
Yeah, we had spiders. We fought spiders in the before dark times, but those were not crabs.
Yeah, well, but that was established to be some sort of shadow thing, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
But the whole we have to remember, going back in time, that there was also a pair of feet running through the jungle that then just suddenly disappeared. Now.
Children's feet.
Yes, was it?
I think the suggestion was that they were not an adult's feet.
Yeah, it's possible that there was something like that. Yeah, but we know that. Yeah, and so there was definitely that. So I don't know, and obviously those crabs attacked us later on when we were in the jungle for the first time, and obviously they jumped on Alethea.
Were they exactly the same kind of creature though?
Yes.
Yes.
They were. Right, fine. So, and that obviously appeared after, around the time that Aldrin was there.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for me is that Galila found them nearby the keep. I wonder if they could be. I wonder if those feet. I don't know, because we always assumed for some reason that the feet and the crabs were found nearby each other, and we thought that, and certainly when we were attacked by the crabs, we thought that maybe they were being guided by something else out there. Or at least that's what Zaymar thought.
We also speculated that because the footprints started and finished, and they didn't go anywhere or come from anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether we came to any firm conclusions, but in my head, I'm thinking both of the owner of the feet that made the footprints and the crabs can travel through the plane of shadow, as Adalbert was describing it. So it seems eminently plausible that this person, also travels and therefore can control these things, and being possibly the footprints of a child. There could be an Aldrinor link going on there.
I know. I was rather hoping it wouldn't be, because
or
that
other
would be
children.
hanging around in the
You don't
jungle
know.
outside Trullan. So
The Lost Boys.
yeah, I mean, also it does make me think that what I do wonder is whether what's on the map. How far away is Rogerton? Because I'm just wondering if these crabs could come from
So it's
Rogerton.
about a day's journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 50 miles, I think, off the top of my head.
15,
50.
50. That's actually quite a ways. That's a long way for a crab to travel, even in the shadow plane.
I would like to point out that Aldrinor wears shoes.
Ah, this was bare feet, wasn't it?
Okay, fine.
So I have in my crackpot theories, one of the questions is, could Aldrinor be the forgotten god? Is there any possibility? Because I was thinking, if he's connected to corruption seems to be quite inherent in the forgotten tribe people. Maybe
So
they're connected.
I can probably bring. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up my notes that I made.
I love this. You got tons of notes, and I scribbled sort of 2
I'm doing
points
tons of
down.
notes.
Yeah,
I've got
because I'm
stuff
trying to
there.
be as frat here as possible. But anyway, yeah, that is Aldrinor, the forgotten god. You know, if we're talking forgotten, it suggests that he was
Yeah.
more important at some point, and maybe got, killed or whatever. So we're talking D&D after all.
Yep.
He could have been reincarnated. It literally could be the reincarnation of this god, and that's why he's a child.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I do know is, okay, so again, somebody who may or may not come into the story at a later date is an elf called I believe he's an elf. I think he's an elf called Marianus. Okay,
Elf,
He's definitely an elf.
definitely
yeah.
an elf. Yeah,
Very
Just
elven.
sort of nip off. I'll be right back.
yeah, exactly. And so Marianus was somebody who we encountered in the before times.
Mhm.
Who was the first person to be suspected of corruption and also to be under the influence of corruption. And we managed to capture this person, and during the interrogation, he wasn't too smart, and we were able to convince him to talk about how he was corrupted and why he had these voices in his head and things like that. So basically he was corrupted and was following this sort of thing. I said, who was it? And he said, Aldrinor. And I was like, huh, okay. So I wrote that down. So Aldrinor, sorry, so it's ALDR apostrophe NOR. Now, the interesting thing was that he only, according to my notes, he only that's right, I managed to put truth serum in him. That was it. And so we interrogated him using truth serum, and what I have in my notes is that Aldrinor first contacted him in his dreams, and as far as he was aware, like, because this is Marianus, he was just just talking to Marianus, although that's what he said at the time. And he said that it had only contacted him in the last 5 years, and that mist had only started to become apparent in the last 5 years. So I think it's entirely possible that you're right, that if it was the Forgotten God and the Forgotten Tribe was suddenly had Aldrinor come back, that it's possible that that's what kicked all this off, or it began 5 years ago and was just building as we were going through. I think that's certainly a possibility. The interesting thing that I have in my notes, which, because I was talking to him and I said, so what is this thing that's speaking to you in your head? And bizarrely, and it could be that I miswrote it down, Marianus didn't think he was a god. According to the notes, it was only a voice in his head, but he didn't think it was a god. Now, that's what Marianus thought, and he was corrupted by it, but he didn't think that Aldrinor was a god. Maybe that's because he saw him as a
No,
boy or
but
something.
Marianus was deluded enough to think that he was still in control.
Correct. I'm not saying he's a reliable narrator. in any stretch.
It's also possible that a creature that causes corruption doesn't see itself as a god necessarily, and is instead worshipped as one by something like the Forgotten Tribe, right?
Mhm.
So that could be where that mythology comes from, and then instead it's actually Algernon who's new now and reborn, like you said, maybe.
I mean, again, it all comes down to, I think that, and I'll just pose the question without going any deeper. It does pose the question as like, what is a god?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question though, because I mean, on a meta level, right? I have certain expectations of a god, and that's definitely not what we found so far, which is awesome because having those expectations challenge is awesome. But having the Huntress just pop up because I spoke in her name, it's like for Reyna, it's the worst thing that could have happened, and definitely what she expected. But for me, it was like, oh shit. It's like, oh god, I did not expect it would be this. I thought I would just be vaporized or it'd be okay somehow, and I'd be, asking for forgiveness.
Well, next session.
Yeah.
I have to say that was awesome. I absolutely
It was absolutely epic.
Thank you.
But the other thing is that given what Chris and I know, I mean, I had so many things going through my head that I can't even begin to assemble after seeing that go through. But I think that certainly for the purposes of this campaign, I think it is fair to question what we think is a god versus what is a very powerful being.
Mm-hmm.
And we have no, idea of what goes on in that sort of, it is literally difficult to determine what a god is. And I don't think actually...
The thing is, I mean,
to
sort of badly paraphrase someone who may or may not have been Asimov, I don't know, any technology sufficiently advanced
Arthur C. Clarke.
Indistinguishable from magic. So to kind of fit that to the situation,
that's a great thing. Great quote.
Anyone sufficiently powerful will be indistinguishable to the common person as a god.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's an interesting thing for me, is that obviously she has followers, the Huntress has followers, and clearly Adalbert gets his powers, or his clerical energy comes from, I assume he's a cleric. I actually don't know. Which is... I actually don't know. I assume he's a cleric, but only because I've, seen him.
His study suggests that he gets his powers from study of the reality around him.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know he's healed someone, but
Yeah, what does that mean? I know, exactly. I know. We don't even know that I know. I call him a cleric. The reality is that we don't even know. He could be a different type of character class that we've never even heard of. Who knows? This is one of the things this is why nobody ever announces what they're doing, because it just leaves. I mean, it's a shame because it stops you being too meta about the whole game.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is like everything then becomes a discussion. It's like there is no ground truth that you could ever rely on.
I mean that's one of the things I love about Simon's games, is that it as he said actually previously in one of his chats with Kevin, he runs D&D as much as possible like a simulation, and people don't go around with builder or architect or priest. Well, they might written on their faces. You're going to find this out through conversation, and someone can quite legitimately decide they don't want to tell you.
Yeah.
And someone these days particularly might have 3 different things going on at the same time, or might not really know how to define themselves. All the more so in a sort of pseudo medieval world where you don't have a 9-to-5 job necessarily. It's a what do you do, not what's your job,
But anyway, So so you're right. I don't know what Adalbert is. He could be anything. But even so, it appears that he follows the Huntress, and it appears that he draws power from her in some way. I would think it would be fair to say that. if that is true, then clearly the Huntress is providing that energy to him potentially in a way that mimics a god. So I think it's sort of fair to say, but it's just interesting.
I mean, you could speculate about that and say maybe the difference between, you know, following a god and using magic and doing it yourself could be the same as either playing an instrument yourself or asking the god to play it for you, and both will produce an effect, but one is you asking for it and the other one is you doing it yourself. So I think maybe it's something like that, you know, where the energy itself, the instrument being played, is the same. So in this case, it could all be arcane energy, but actually one is just, sorry, there's apparently an emergency here, but but you know, somehow
That's Simon warning you that you're going into dangerous territory.
shut up. No, but
These
maybe,
realistic
you know,
sound
it's all
effects are
the
brought to you by.
yeah.
Like, he's worried. He's looking behind him now. So yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's, you know, if it's all one kind of energy, and that energy can be corrupted or not, then that raises some interesting questions as well for me, at least.
So coming back to the shadow crabs and stuff like that. Why do we think they are around and about Trillin? In, like, if we're looking through that episode, like, where did they, like, what was their purpose? Because it's like, I you know, something was clearly out and about in the trees surrounding it, and we have no idea why they would be there.
All right. Well, given what's just happened in the most recent sessions, we've been invaded by, you know, forces of the Forgotten God. It's entirely possible that was a scouting mission of some kind.
Why did one die? I mean, Galila found one dead.
Already.
No,
dead,
she killed it.
true.
Oh, she killed it.
Oh, did she? Right.
Oh, right. Okay.
She stabbed it.
It's also, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was tricky. So,
Well, what if it's all connected to Mayanara and they're all hunting her, but the lie is that dragons are more easily corrupted, and both sides are just hunting to kill the dragon or dragon blood or whatever. So they're both after her.
The consequence of that idea, though, is that the Huntress is herself a liar.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not. Harate has got no allegiance to her whatsoever, but that's a big consequence.
yeah. I think that the Huntress clearly wants. I mean, as I talked to Serene, I said, "Is that why your goddess is called the Huntress?" And she said, "Yes."
Basically.
So that means there is an entire god who is named around hunting dragons. And their symbol is a horn, which, again, like a hunting horn, presumably.
Oh, okay, that kind of one. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So this was immediately what went through my head. So it's kind of like Fox and the Hounds kind of thing. And obviously, if you use that terminology, I find that quite interesting as well, in the fact that the fox is clearly a weaker thing compared to the hounds going after and going out and chasing this one thing down. So I found that analogy there, that the use of the Huntress's horn as a hunting horn, in other words, a pack going out and chasing down a single animal, I found quite disturbing from the imagery that it brings. And I thought that was quite an interesting turn. Yeah. And I don't know how Adalbert sees that as well, because that would be interesting just to put that to Adalbert. We haven't had a chance to chat, you know.
No, we haven't had much chance to do anything.
No. Yeah, not even.
One crisis to the next.
So, can I ask, before you guys met the Huntress, was she like a known entity, or is this something that you discovered at that time?
So, like, what do you remember, Chris?
I don't think we had an awareness of her before we met her.
I mean, you did, Lady Doraine, I do remember saying that the Huntress is here or something.
Oh, actually, because did we met Serene in the place that shall not be named?
Yes.
Voldemort?
And you acquired her Huntress's horn, didn't you? At that
Okay,
point.
so that was what happened. So what happened was Horathia, amazingly, you'll find this a very, very strange story, and you'll be like, no. But apparently, Horathia and Serene came to blows in the very first...
I'm shocked.
Yes, I know. And anyway, he wrestled her to the ground.
Hilarious.
And while that happened, Zamar happened to just relieve her of a certain item, and he a silver horn symbol, holy symbol.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so he has a holy symbol from Serene.
Yeah, so
Stole from Serene, and it's made of silver. Interesting.
She was also with someone else from the Golden Leaf. I don't know whether
Rec.
you want me to say his name. Yeah. And I think we probably did have a conversation about their motivations and that they followed the Huntress. I think we probably did.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did have an awareness of her before we met her.
Yeah, but then when she turned up, we were like, "What the hell? We thought you were following a god, like the
Right.
fake gods that everybody
Yeah, I
else."
mean, as far as Parathia was concerned, anyway, gods. Well, he's encountered monks, in his past plenty of times, but he's never encountered any evidence of there being an actual, real god at the other end, if you like.
Exactly. Zamar likewise.
Simon, can I ask about what Reyna might or might not have known about this? Specifically, whether she has any knowledge of the Huntress, in the rest of her life. Is it something that she's encountered at some point? Has it been mentioned, or is it completely new?
Reyna was never that interested in religion. So she would have only come across it from time to time by accident in conversation, or perhaps somebody who was particularly devoted to a god.
Right.
Reyna's aware that in other cities like Lauf, gods are much more important, but in her circles they weren't important. So whether or not she'd heard of the Huntress would be a religion role.
Okay.
Wait. That begs the question: how do you impersonate a god that you never met?
Well, I had met her at the time that I did the impersonation. That's on the turn that I did it. I first asked Simon to answer a question that I'd sent him, which was, have I heard her voice enough to impersonate it?
Hang on, this is into character though. We should probably hold this for the session, because Horathia and Samita might want to have that conversation in session.
Yeah, good point. Noted.
Yeah. See, I'm not writing that down because Horathia's not going to come up with that.
All right, so episode 1 still. Serene asked you to help find Lady Manola in a blue dress. What the fuck did you think she expected to happen, having asked you to do that?
Personally speaking, he has almost negative trust in Serene. So, in a way, for him, asking more questions just gives you more bullshit. So what's the point? He took the facts away from that and thought, okay, let's do this, and if we can do it in a way that screws Serene over, so much the better.
See, that was interesting, because Zamar thought that you were just taking the contract as per the contract. So in other words, part of one of the things that Horathia is always keen on is, like, you follow the contract. So
contracts are important like that. There are ties, obviously, with the Golden Leaf, and those are important. So he doesn't want to jeopardize that. But so if you can fulfill the contract and piss Serene off, then win-win.
Yeah.
But that was also linked to Adalbert finding out from the Huntress that there were 2 marks, that there were 2 on the mark, which he got very confused about, because I think he didn't know what a mark was until he spoke to Horathia.
Yes.
But effectively, the idea was there were 2 parties going after the same mark, was the message from the Huntress at the time.
Okay, that's interesting, because this has been twisted around an awful lot.
First of all, huge.
he told us that there were two Marks, obviously having misunderstood something.
Yeah.
But if the actual message to him, there were two people going after the same Mark, that can't be Serene and Radek, because that was before we got the job, wasn't it?
Which means that those elves that we encountered.
That's why they were there.
Mm-hmm.
They did a really crappy job, incidentally. But
Well,
those elves, we're skipping forward a few episodes, but if we're to trying to think who it was a princess who told us, if we're to believe her, then they're rogue elements of the Imperial Army.
Yeah, so when Adalbert found out about the Mark, it was after that you got the contract from Serene, and I think you wanted some information about why Serene might be after this this woman. So the implication being that I can't remember exactly what Adalbert's question was, but the answer was two can go after the same Mark. I.e., it wasn't the elves, it was you, and obviously there's a lot of things to speculate about, so I'm trying to clarify just so that you have a foundation of fact. So yeah, the Huntress was trying to say that you're both after the same Mark.
Meaning that Serene and yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. So anyway, so we left, didn't we? And then.
Yeah, I mean, if we just talk about the contract itself again, I mean, it's eminently plausible if we believe Serene's statement that she's a dragon hunter, that the lady, what was it?
Minara.
No, I know it's Princess Minara, Lady
Minola,
thank you, is potentially a dragon. That makes it seem very straightforward from Serene, which is most.
I see. So, because I keep getting mixed up whether I thought that Mayanara was Lady Minola, because I thought that there was just like a disguised name that she was traveling under.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
right. So if she's a dragon hunter, she wants to kill a dragon, and it seems reasonable that she'd ask Rathe to do it because she knows how dangerous they are, and she doesn't like Rathe. So if he gets mangled or killed, that's all right.
and it nearly worked.
I think the motivation is fairly clear at that point, yeah. All right, so you boarded the Marinette. You were ambushed by elves. As you said, you think they're probably Imperials.
They're not followers of the Huntress.
You would think not.
Yeah.
No. They weren't Forgotten Tribe either.
And
Well,
then,
that's I want to question.
Given the treatment, sorry, Kevin, a minute.
No.
Given the treatment of those who don't follow the Huntress at the I don't know what inauguration, for want of a better word, of the Empress, they are very much rogue because they killed all the ones who weren't genuinely followers of the Huntress.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. So
Kevin, sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the part about they're not working for the Forgotten Tribe, but it kind of sketches a picture to me like it might be the case, or at least working towards the same aim. If you consider that they are rogue Imperial military elements from, still loyal to the corrupted Emperor, right? And right after you managed to get Minara away from them, or at least, she murdered a bunch of them and then you got her away, the Forgotten Tribe showed up. Maybe that's like the escalation of the soldiers failing to capture her, and then the Forgotten Tribe showed up to do the job instead.
That's true, because it would certainly follow that when they bailed out of the ship at Trillon, that they're all searching for something.
Yeah.
Searching for some kind of ground trace or something.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but I mean, there is Rathe took a gamble when we were ambushed by them on the trireme, as he's wont to do, confidently stepping out, announcing who he is, and they could have filled him full of holes, and he wasn't really very equipped to avoid it. But they didn't. They withdrew completely because they weren't interested in a fight with us, which I don't know what that says in the context of them possibly being in league with, you know, the Forgotten Tribe, etc. It suggests to me that they're not allied, although I can't quite put my finger on why I think that.
Well, because they didn't kill you and the Forgotten Tribe.
Well, yeah, the Forgotten Tribe have a personal antagonism towards Fred, who doesn't.
Yes.
You know.
Right. But I mean, if they're more like unlikely allies, then maybe they simply lacked that antagonistic approach to Arathia, and were more bent on capturing her.
I think the thing about the Forgotten Tribe that we've noticed from having met a lot of them is that they're all pretty, like, stealth isn't their strong point in terms of, you know, and these guys were like camouflaged. They had bits of twigs and stuff like that. It was almost a little bit more like the way Serene dresses, in that sort of sense. So they were clearly special operations soldiers, but they weren't like magical or anything, and they weren't using corruption in any way that
Correct.
we could see.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to believe that they're not allied with the Forgotten Tribe in that particular way. It's possible that we all have the same goals. We're all looking for Princess Marinara stroke Lady Manola. So it's possible that they're all going for that same thing. I just wonder, there is a possibility that maybe they were sent there to protect her, and when they found out that she wasn't there, they left. Because there was a rope leading down to the ship, and I think that they put that rope there and swung down on that rope because that's the way that they left. They left by climbing up the rope to the cliffside.
Why did she kill them all then?
Huh?
If they were there to protect her, why would she kill them all?
No, sorry, I meant the four that we came across. They were dressed in camouflage, and they had boarded the ship after Lady Mayanara had killed off.
Yeah, no, I know. Much like the ones we encountered in the forest, they're the same force. She killed them all. I mean, as far as we know, anyway. She was hunting them down in little isolated batches and killing them.
Yeah, that's possible. I just think that it's possible that the elves that were, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, no, I agree. Fair enough. They were probably sent there to kill her, but it was interesting that they were hanging out on the boat. I guess they were just waiting for her to return, but then they just shot Ellie when we turned up on the ship, which is.
It was quite dark. I mean, I don't know, not being an elf, how much they could see of us, but...
Yeah.
They were within dark vision range.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, she can change shape, then perhaps they were just being cautious. That could be the princess, the shooter.
Yeah. Well, there's also if they're rogue Imperial elements and they expected you to not be on their side, then maybe that was...
Yeah,
the reason for shooting.
I mean, it's quite a strong suggestion that they're still in league with the former Imperial leadership, which would put them on the same side as the Forgotten Tribe. But I don't know.
I think it's a rumor that Reyna carried with her from Mbevazas. So, yeah, she also doesn't know how accurate that is exactly.
Well, that's interesting. So, yeah, it's possible that we've got three factions all working towards trying to kill, or two factions potentially all trying to work towards. I mean, we definitely got Serene going after her because apparently she's a dragon. All right, we've got Forgotten Tribe going after her because apparently they don't. That's who they're possibly looking for.
Well, if again we take Serene at face value,
Yes.
and that dragons are susceptible to corruption, then the Forgotten Tribe would love to have her in their grip because once she falls to corruption, she's not herself anymore. She's one of them. Yeah, that's the way it seems to work. It's like the in pre-stream days, we did capture a Forgotten Tribe member and at least temporarily disrupt the corruption.
Yeah.
And had a straightforward conversation with them, and they didn't want to be doing what they were doing.
Yeah, that was like, please kill me.
No,
So
that's-
part of the, this is one of the interesting things is that all the Forgotten Tribe members that we've encountered, they're all doing the bidding of whoever it is, Aldrinor or the corrupted element or Beziel or whoever it is in charge. And none of them want to be doing that. They've all been taken over and corrupted and twisted over. So that is one of the major problems. So you can see why they want to kill off dragons, especially if they're, every single time they're being corrupted. And so it's just like, why would you want to have them around if they can just be turned over to the other side?
Yeah. If Serene is speaking the truth, and it is indeed about killing dragons, then dragons must become a very powerful weapon on the other side. And the Huntress is trying to protect people essentially in general by taking such a threat away, right?
It seems like that's part of the reasoning behind it. It's like, if you've got something that's easy corruptible, like, just kill it. It's a little bit of an extreme measure.
Yeah, it's quite extreme.
It is, but I mean, it's simple, direct, and solves the problem. And in a lot of ways,
Here we go.
it's exactly the sort of thing that Rathir would do.
Which is why it's a bad idea.
But because it's not him doing it, it's someone else, he's naturally inclined to oppose it.
Well, the interesting thing is Zamar actually has a great deal of respect for Serene, because he was just like, okay, now I at least see what you're about. And that seems like a noble goal. He's actually of that opinion. He was kind of like, he had a greater respect for Serene after that reveal, I think.
So when you guys met Serene for the first time, did she already have that sort of corruption-y aspect to her?
Oh yeah, big time, more than she has displayed in the stream.
Yeah, that's how Zamar happened to be relieved of his nearly life the first time. She suddenly switched over and then just lashed out and ran Zamar through with a sword. And then what happened was Zamar then started bleeding out below, while Harathir and Serene argued over whether that was the right thing to do or not. Meanwhile, Zamar is ebbing away from life as the conversation happened.
Can I ask something?
I hadn't long met Zamar.
Yeah, he wasn't yet that fond of Zamar at that point. And so, it was one death save missed, two death save missed, and then I made the third one, and Harathir deigned to stop me dying at that point. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, from a tactical point of view, there was still an active threat. So Harathir was trying to secure the threat, and effectively, she was sort of talked down, made safe, and therefore he could deal with you. But if she had been made safe, he probably would have just let you bleed out.
It was down to a 50-50 roll at one point, and I rolled exactly the number that I needed to roll and no more to make my final death save and still be at the same. I was still in the game.
Right before that happened, so you say she just turned and put you down, but did you say anything that even to normal people would be fine, but maybe triggered her?
She said something at the time, and I can't remember what it was.
She said as she ran you through, she said, no witness.
That was it, yes.
Correct.
That was right. I don't know why I don't remember that better.
It's because it's Serene's use of corruption that makes me think, what if gods can use it in general to control or influence the world somehow? What if the Huntress looking for the dragon is actually going to exert her own influence over it and just sway it to her side that way?
I don't know. It's clear that corruption is springing from certain areas. So, like, Rogaton is a place, Lauf is a place, and in all of these places there is a church, and in all of these places a large altar. And I know for sure that Zamar has told you that at the church in Rogaton there was an altar with a circle on it, which is the sign of the forgotten.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
I'm maybe skipping ahead, and Simon, you might not want me. You might want to control things a bit more tightly. But the question that I have on my tongue is, if we take Serene at face value, and there's lots of ifs behind this, and we accept that Princess Mayonara is a dragon, and that dragons exist, and all that sort of stuff, and that they're susceptible to corruption, I seem to recall there being some suggestion that it's when they do things like change shape or whatever that they become potentially susceptible to corruption. I could be wrong about that, but let's assume I'm right. Princess Mayonara seems to have no, reticence to change shape frequently and do damage and leave herself open to this corruption. Now, there's also a question of why she's not in her country, because she said there was a death penalty for Reyna to not be there. Now, if we assume then that there are more like her in her country, and that they're all changing shape all the time, then why is it not just the most corrupted place on the planet?
I don't know where you got the changing shape makes them more corrupted. I just heard that dragons are very susceptible to corruption when they come into contact with it.
I mean, that might have been brain inventing stuff, but
no, I remember that too. But I thought that the information was that they were more corruptible in a certain form, and I think it was the humanoid form that they were more corruptible, and at least that was the implication that I got from Serene, I think, during that conversation.
The word transition was used.
Right.
Oh, there you go. I'm not making it.
Could you elaborate? They are more corruptible when they're in transition.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, you'd have to do like history checks and things, but
yeah.
And that's probably a session conversation as well. But
what if the corruption is tied to their telepathic abilities? Because both Astravi and the princess seem to have telepathic abilities. What if that makes them more susceptible to it?
Oh, I see. Being telepathic. Yeah. I mean, assuming that that's what we were doing when we were talking to the princess. She brings you into what was her Hall of Echoes.
Yeah.
But isn't that just magic, like Adalbert's thing? That is interesting, though. That is super interesting, though, to me, that Adalbert has a spell called Hall of Echoes, and that also the princess has something that works very similarly.
But better. You know that Adalbert is going to be working to improve it.
Yeah, but do you see that like Adalbert, I don't know whether he let slip or whether he thought it was similar or whatever, but it is interesting to me that the Hall of Echoes has a similar capability or works in a similar way to the way that Princess Marinara basically talks with people. Because it could be just a spell. Like, it could be that she's not actually telepathic, that she just... But I mean, obviously, I know that what's again is interesting is that, again, Adalbert is able to communicate a message Sturrock wherever he is.
Yeah. Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
I was just looking at my notes for anything about this transition thing. I came across something else, which was I wrote down there was a tribe in Glatland which was associated with dragons, but it's no longer active, which I also found interesting because Glatland is where Lauf is as well, right?
Yes. Lauf is the capital of Glatland.
Right. So I don't remember if I asked you, Simon, if I knew when they went inactive, but it was like a historical fact, right? It wasn't something that was like recent news or anything to me. Yeah.
But I remember that, so the books that we have that we brought up into the room after, like, when Serene arrived and that Adalbert wanted access to, that we got from the Sage, which was, and again, jumping back in time to the point which was this in the current episodes?
No.
Grief. No. Okay, so we ran down a ship which was apparently doing pirate activity, and it contained a bunch of books from a sage that Zamar met in Lauf, who was squirreling his books away to the other side of the world, and like I say, he was a sage in Lauf, and had enormous like historical references in these books to the history of Lauf. So when Adalbert gets a look at these books, in the history books that we have, that might actually uncover a good deal of information about Lauf and its heritage.
Yeah, never mind the books. Wasn't that the same shit that had lots of gold bars on it?
Yeah, hilariously, the gold
That's
bars
the
were
one. Who cares
surrounding
about the books?
the books. It was what? Yeah. Yes. But again, okay, so there is something also interesting that I want to bring up that's just another one of like Zamar's sort of random theories, but this is a sort of a Zamar theory. He wonders about what level silver plays in this world. Like silver as a metal clearly has special properties. I do not think it's an accident that the Huntress's symbol is made of silver.
Well, that's interesting because I've wondered the same, but about iron, because the symbol I have is made of iron, right, Simon?
Sorry, I was actually typing to you. Yes, the symbol is iron. Yes.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I mean silver. That's true.
Well, there
has to be properties in that.
The reason I say that is because Zamar found out shortly through his pigeon network. He's basically got contact.
Pigeons.
Yeah, he sends pigeons backwards and forwards to Lauf basically, and he has a contact. Technically, if you remember, I spoke of Marianus earlier in the stream. I spoke about Marianus the elf and being one of these people who got corrupted by Aldrinor. Well, technically, I'm sending pigeon messages to his wife. Which is a little, but anyway, we'll get into that another day as to why that is the case.
Interesting.
Yeah, just saying. But Tower Law is sort of in Lauf, and Lauf is under occupation by the Forgotten Tribe. So the last time that I spoke, I mean, maybe impossible to get another message back now, but the network is there. But what found out was that Lauf was they're building something over the crack that appeared in Lauf.
Right.
Similar to the one that appeared in Rogaton. So these cracks appearing in the ground with the corruption coming out of it, we had one of those appear in Lauf, and that was immediately sought after by the Forgotten Tribe as being a place of power. That's why I thought the Forgotten Tribe, when they turned up in the Trillin, I thought they were actually going straight the way through to Rogaton. I thought they were going to try and claim Rogaton, but it's possible that Rogaton's already fallen because we just haven't been back there in a while.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
What?
Well, the fact that having witnessed what was going on in Robertson before with the building, and what you said about Lauf, some building, it's not just religious nutcases. There's a reason for it.
No. There's an absolute region. It's like when you get a crack appear in the ground, they build something on it, and then they start shipping in. So silver has dried up now. Like we can't get hold of silver. Like all of that. So silver has become very, very difficult to find. So because all of the silver mines are being taken over by the Forgotten Tribe, they're actually enslaving Galila's people because they're silver miners. So I believe that's either due to the king who was in league with the Forgotten Tribe. The king is the member of which tribe, Simon?
Sun Tribe.
Sun Tribe. Yeah. So the Sun Tribe, I believe, are enslaving the silver miners who are of the which tribe?
They are the Northwind. Galila is from the Northwind tribe.
That's correct. Yeah, Galila's from the Northwind tribe. So we actually had a bunch of refugees arrive in Trillin. So, and that's where Galila came from. So she was part of the refugees who arrived. So I find it interesting that silver is a massive issue. Like it's drying up because they're sweeping all silver into into Lauf, and then they were using it to create some kind of barrier or magical protection around the whole thing. This is why Zamar started silvering his weapons, because he believes that there's some magical properties to silver.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope he mentions that so that Reyna, because I think that would be something Reyna would also be super interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. Obviously, part of the thing is going to be remembering what you do and don't know in character.
I'm not taking any notes. So.
Well, no, I think if you
just reading.
I think if you look back, you'll notice that Zamar did tell you about silver in the previous three.
Yeah.
Zamar did say that he'd silvered his daggers. Yeah.
I said that I'd silvered my daggers, and I said, "Can you get the silvered crossbow bolts?" And you were there when that was said.
Yeah, that's true.
That silver.
But Reyna was very distracted by other things, I think, as I was.
Yeah, you probably don't know that a specific action had been taken to silver the weapons. You just know that the silvered weapons were called for when the Forgotten Tribe showed up. So that's your kind of connection.
Yeah, I don't think Reyna has like a specific inclination to think that immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't know about like silver shortages or anything.
No, that's true. But again, these are, so that's true. So you'll have to like.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I'm deliberately not writing anything down.
Yeah. Because Zamar will probably bring that up because that is part of his theory. He's trying to sell anybody on that who'll listen. So,
I'm also wondering with Mainara here, what the hell is going on in Arasia then? Because either one of her family is still on the throne, which makes me question how in the world did Serene study dragon hunting in Arasia with a dragon on the throne, or she's been exiled.
I did not think about that.
I don't think Serene is from Arasia.
No, but she went there to study.
Oh, that's because that's where dragons are.
What?
Yeah, that's
that's what she mentioned. That's why she went to Arasia.
Yeah, I think that was.
It's like a secret base
training, but she said she wasn't in there for very long either. I don't think.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it is indeed a secret base, but but then that means if they've been successful, and I will say I have reasons to believe that they might have been, but that makes Mainara a princess in exile, effectively, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she hasn't stated anything about why, or what was her reason for
she wants to meet the man who paints boats.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Oh my goodness! Yes, that's right. That
Man who
weird thing. Oh wait a minute. Okay, so,
could that be a deity?
I'm gonna have to make a note of something to bring up in the next session now, because like Zamar's been bloody.
If I recall,
there's something that he was going to say about the boat painting. Yeah.
One of the last things I have written down is something about the man who paints boats, I think.
Yeah.
But that was from 2 sessions ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ratha did mention it as part of a meeting with Serene, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just running back, when Beziel was on the way, Serene left. And she said that she was trying to draw Beziel away.
Correct.
That's a big WTF for me.
Maybe
because
she's really bad at it?
Huh?
Maybe she's really bad at it?
Well, yeah, she's either bad at it or it didn't work. But if it didn't work, like, what did she think that...
There might be 2 boats, for all we know.
I wonder if... What I wonder is if she was trying to pretend that she'd got the princess. And that's what she was trying to do, is to pretend that she'd got the princess to draw Beziel, because Beziel's trying to find the princess. Right now, we don't know why Beziel's arrived in Trillin. But the weird thing that I find is that they arrive in Trillin, they spread out, looking for some kind of tracks. But I don't even know what tracks they're looking for. It's like, what tracks would a flying princess leave? Like, none. Like, they're flying. So, why wouldn't she just fly away?
Well, but if we assume that corruption has an intrinsic link to magic, then if she's easily corrupted, she must be highly magical. Maybe that's something they're tracking.
I just don't know what they were looking. It's like it's on the ground. They were looking at tracks on the ground. And why were they just looking where they were? It doesn't make any sense as to why they were tracking where they were tracking.
Well, if I recall, there was an indication that they were following tracks in a certain direction, which seemed to be towards the treehouse.
Did that happen, Simon? I just remember them spreading out.
So the rider started looking for something, didn't seem to find anything. And the speculation at the time was if the rider was looking for Princess Mayonara, then the only tracks that they'd find were the more recent ones, which were towards the ruined keep. Right. However, something happened before the rider got there. Can't remember what. But
the plate kind of turned up or something.
Something.
Magically appeared from the sky. Who knows who did that?
I also find that interesting because it seems to me that the Forgotten Tribe, and if they're tied to this corruption, are on the rise, right? They're having successes in effect. Like Rogaton, Lauf is under their control, but then they hear the hunters and they do turn tail and flee immediately. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of respect to give to your enemy, to a degree, that you don't see just a voice.
Well, I know that is true.
It was a good impression.
It was, but I didn't think they'd leave the island or sorry, not the island, but the whole town immediately. I thought they'd like.
But I think that obviously triggered something. I mean, the reason that she's turned up now, the Huntress, is obviously you've spoilt some of her plans. Otherwise, she would just turn up and tell them to bugger off if she wanted that. So obviously she was trying to lead them in a particular direction, or maybe she was just quite happy for the Forgotten Tribe to take the princess.
Yeah. Or she didn't want her presence to be known, or her involvement to be known in this whole thing.
Well, absolutely.
Would that be possible?
That's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean that supposes that she was actually there already, doesn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're not spoiling anything, are you?
True.
Yeah. So I don't know what they were looking for. That's my point. Is that why were they looking on the ground, and were they actually looking for Princess Mayonara? That's, it's like they started at Trillin and then they spread out in a radial pattern. I just don't understand why they were.
Yeah, so what might they be looking for? I mean, they might be looking for Princess Mayonara. It seems the most likely thing. They could be looking for Hrathir because they don't like him very much. And there's a thing about these particular ones that I want to bring up, but I don't want to bring it up today. So what am I saying? But Hrathir didn't hide very well. So
Hrathir didn't hide very well, and neither were our tracks hidden.
But that's entirely meta, because obviously Hrathir thinks that he was hid really awesome,
But I'm saying it's like that thing was sniffing around for tracks where we had previously been standing. And so it found out.
But it's a road, isn't it? I mean, that's not.
But it also rode up straight to the keep. Like it didn't go any other direction.
But that was 1 of 40. The other 39 didn't.
Yeah, exactly. It was just spreading out radially, and I think it was just carrying on. It was a shame that we never got to see exactly where it was going, because we never find out. But at the same time, I get the feeling if we'd found out, we'd suddenly be dealing with 40. With 40 things. That's the problem. But I think it's clear that they weren't heading to Rogaton. So, I mean, the only thing that we're trying to see that is of any value is potentially... what we know is that it definitely wasn't looking for any of our tracks, because it went right over them. So we definitely know that for sure.
Yeah. So what else might they be looking for? I mean, conceivably, they might have been looking for Adalbert, because he has slowed corruption and cured some people of corruption, so he's a threat to the spread.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they saw like
so far that's relatively small compared to their numbers.
It can't be Adalbert, because they saw his tracks and it didn't react to them.
Okay, well
so it can't be.
They might just have rolled really badly on the tracking, mightn't they?
I suppose, but
I did say that the tracks where it started looking were essentially where the princess landed and all the Astravian soldiers were. So that area was completely messed up.
Yeah, it was really muddy and rainy as well.
Yeah, I mean, potentially they could be looking for Reyna herself, couldn't they? Because we don't know anything about her, really.
No, this is entirely true. So we don't know who they were turning up to look for.
Kevin puts on his most suspicious DM's face.
Do you know, every time I've said something that I think might be significant, I've switched to Twitch to watch what you're doing, Simon. But you're fairly poker face throughout, which is disappointing.
I'm just gonna rewatch the whole thing and analyze every facial expression.
Yeah, Kevin. The reason I was chatting to Kevin was because he sent me a thing saying that he wished he could see my face while you're talking, and I said, well, ask the Chris's what I tend to give away during a session.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Not
Yeah,
much.
the answer is nothing unless he wants it to be given away, and often he'll have to prod.
I actually, yeah.
DM, right?
So obviously we're getting to the end of the episodes in the order that we're talking about stuff, but there is one thing that you skipped over that I've got on my list, and I can't remember, Kevin, whether you saw this. The heartbeat.
Oh God, yes.
I remember it, but that was like, I think, right when I started watching.
Yeah, right. So the heartbeats are really unusual thing, because both Chris and I, if you will watch the stream, both get, and you'll have to, you technically, I guess, Samita technically won't know this, but is that like what happened from the heartbeat is that the corruption suddenly sprung up from the ground.
Right.
But also we gained abilities from that.
Ah, okay.
And I was just like, what the hell happened there?
We've still got those abilities too.
Oh, right, it's the dark vision thing, right? And
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we literally just gained dark vision. I was just like, did I go up a weird level or something like that?
I was thinking, cool, this corruption stuff's all right, isn't it?
That's how they get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I have no idea about like where that came from. So that Zemo for a time being was just like, does anybody else have like dark vision? And Harathia's like, yeah, I do.
That happened after the fight with the crabs, right? Or like in the middle, actually, because it didn't end. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that is really interesting to me, and I know that they are becoming more frequent. But there is an interesting thing that I do wonder, and that is like that literally changed how we work as characters, which means that it could potentially, that heartbeat could potentially do more if another one comes, which is slightly worrying. Or it makes me wonder how many heartbeats have happened before and changed other people in serious ways over 3,000 years or whatever.
I really want to say something, but I don't want to say it tonight.
Save it for next session or something.
Do I want? Oh, I don't know. All right.
You're gonna Harathiaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, every time something like this happens, it's like corruption is advancing itself.
Yeah.
And like it or not, we probably do have elements of corruption in us because we've encountered it a fair few times. So this is like whatever's responsible for the corruption, you know, making their grip stronger. The thing I'm kind of skirting around, and I hope I can sort of do the thing that's relevant to the conversation without revealing the other thing that I'm thinking. So these undead, the glowing bones and all the rest of it, we can assume that at some point they were the elves that we've encountered before.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
The progression of the corruption has turned them into what they are now.
Yes.
So the heartbeat, it seems to me, feels like an indicator of that corruption being advanced and consolidated and changing things.
It's possible. That's exactly what I mean. It's like I do wonder what. I'm just not entirely sure that capability or these abilities that have spread out is necessarily. I mean, we need to go and find another person. We don't know anybody else who was nearby who has been in the vicinity of a heartbeat. I mean, yeah.
You could get yourself purged the way that, Alethea and Adalbert apparently can do. And see if that has an effect on your ability.
I've been tried. So, Adalbert has tried to get rid of, corruption after... So, Zaymar unfortunately fell in the water at Rogaton.
It happens.
Basically swallowed a whole bunch of corrupted water, which was not ideal, I can say, in every stretch of imagination. And so he apparently still has some taint of it or whatever, but certainly it was pretty bad because it controls you, so it made him jump off a roof.
Right.
The first time that he tried it. And then the next time, I can't remember what the hell it was trying to do, but he's been pretty good at controlling it so far whenever it's sort of he's had to roll.
That's what Marianus thought.
Yeah, I know. Yes. So anyway, don't swallow a whole bunch of corrupted water. That's a bad idea.
Well, okay, yeah.
Or get a weird infected, corrupted worm stuck in your eye and have one of the guards fish it out with a knife. That's why his eye doesn't work. So
going back to this heartbeat, so if my wild speculation is anyway correct, then, and if the Princess Mayonara is a dragon and dragons are susceptible to corruption, it seems like a great way of advancing your cause of trying to corrupt the dragon by having this heartbeat thing happen in the vicinity of where she might be.
Okay, so the other thing that I'd like, why is it heartbeat?
Well, if you presume that it is a dead or reviving creature of some kind that is coming back to life and causing this corruption, or the corruption growing is bringing it back to life, then that could be.
I just wonder, wild speculation, whether maybe I'm trying to see too much from a bright side on this. I just wonder whether there's a reaction, because I know that when the heartbeat happened, I wonder if the heartbeat was entirely related to the corruption rising up. 100%. Whether the heartbeat was something that was a reaction from the world to protect its people around it, and it's trying to make us better, and that the corruption is coming up.
I really admire that you can see a bright side.
I know. I was just thinking that maybe just because we've got dark vision now, which is quite cool. So I wonder if it's if at the same time that corruption is rising, that maybe there's some kind of equal and opposite thing that's happening to people who are trying to fight it.
That's a lovely fluffy bunny thought, but I don't believe a word of it.
I know, it is very fluffy bunny.
See, heartbeat, it's associated with blood. That's how I see it. There's
life.
There's a blood thing. Well, yes, true, but there's a blood thing going on. The mist rising, the ground shaking or whatever, sort of, and the bugs and the shadow plane, all that sort of stuff suggests to me that there's a thinning of the connection between our place and some other place, and the other place is bad news and related to corruption, and possibly there's a big old heartbeat going on there.
Yeah, or it's something deeper in the earth. I mean, clearly the cracks have something to do with it, and this mist is rising up and up out of the ground. I mean, that doesn't bode well unless you happen to be on top of a mountain at the end of this. I don't exactly want to see this whole planet turned into, quotes, corruption world, like water world, where all of everywhere gets rising up so much that it becomes unsafe to go anywhere. Yeah. It's just because I remember looking at like this stuff like hangs above the ground now. But since we come back from like that mist when we left it, Simon, at the place where the heartbeat happened, that's now not happened to all of the ground nearby. It just happens in a local vicinity, doesn't it?
You haven't seen the mist elsewhere, but it is worth bearing in mind that you flew from that area and landed in the Ruin Keep, so you haven't travelled much in between.
No, we haven't actually gone out to examine where. The other thing that we haven't done yet is start to map exactly where these things are happening, because I think that will that's something that we're actually missing, is that, you know, we need to, and this is one of the things that occurred to Zayman, and he'll probably bring it up whenever he gets the moment, but he's got like a scrabbly map basically that he picked off one of the sailors. So, but plotting where these events are happening and trying to indicate where these heartbeats and stuff are happening might be quite important, I think, at some point. Yeah. So, yeah, I have no idea what that heartbeat is. It doesn't make.
And something else that happened very soon after, you had a chat with Aldri.
Yes. The chat. Yes. I don't know why I can only see him, and I'm not sure if it's because I swallowed a bunch of Rogaton water.
It's because you're more corrupted than some of us. They made you try and jump off a building.
I know.
They're drawing you in.
I know. It's very irritating. It's very irritating because, yeah. And Aldri basically, for some reason, I don't know, the first time he met me or whatever, or the first time I saw him, he put his lips and went shh, like that, as if it was some kind of secret. But he's clearly childlike in the way that he does things. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see him, interestingly enough, I didn't see him as like a direct threat. It was almost like he was...
Yeah, that's your mistake. Frathe tried to kill him, and he's quite upset that he didn't manage it.
Yes, well, good luck trying to kill a god, pseudo-massive being, blah, 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 the source of corruption, the forgotten god, I don't know, whatever it is.
That's my speculation, it's not Frathe. Frathe is a naughty boy.
Very naughty boy. Yeah, I don't know. But it was interesting to me that he wasn't overtly dangerous in that way. But the other thing that's kind of weird is I would love to know if that was the same Aldri voice that is talking to Beziel and was talking to Marianus and so on, because like these things have clear and definite plans, but they're not clearly talking to a kid and taking orders from a kid, because the way that he's talking to me is not the way that he seems to be directly addressing other people.
No, but that Forgotten Tribes person that we interrogated was being commanded by Beziel.
Right, that's true actually, yes.
And, dare I say it, Aldrin has popped up a few times and doesn't seem to have done anything.
No.
We've met the Huntress a few times, but she doesn't seem to do anything.
Yeah, well, that seems exactly like a god then.
That's harsh.
Well, she might do something now.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I'm hoping she does, because we're absolutely shafted otherwise.
Yeah, so I don't know. So it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand what Aldri is doing or how he's directing somebody like Beziel to do stuff. Yeah. But, yeah, it's bad. But the interesting thing that I noticed that Serene said, oh, Beziel's on the way, but he's definitely not on that ship. Or at least I didn't think he would. If he is...
We don't know. It's still mostly concealed in misty stuff, isn't it?
Well, no, Zemar was looking at the ship with a spyglass, and he couldn't see Beziel on deck.
Right, okay. But is it... Okay, Simon, the ship, is it not covered in shadow in some way, shape or form?
It would be easy to hide on there, yes. However, Zamar did scan the ship, and if Beziel was easily visible, I would have mentioned it for sure.
Okay, but there is a below decks that you could be on.
Yes, it is a trireme, so he could
Yeah,
be
you can
anywhere
see
on
through
the ship.
side. Yeah. So it's technically possible, I suppose, with the rowing knots and stuff like that. But
I mean, it's also possible with more than one ship.
I find it interesting that they said Beziel was coming. There's also the other what the hell, which was the like, and I don't want to necessarily go into this any further, which was with Alithia's thing about the ghosts running through and running away. I mean, it's possible they were running away from Beziel. I think that's what she might have been saying. But either way, that was very weird. I have no idea what she was on about that. So yeah.
Talking of Alithia, switching to the princess now, there's a couple of things that I think are worth speculating about. One is the princess hamstrung Alithia and didn't kill her.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was clear to me that when we met her that she didn't kill us either. She didn't kill Zamar either.
Yeah, but she said to Rathia that it's because she didn't know enough about them, effectively.
Yeah.
About you and Alithia.
Yeah. And we weren't trying to be... And so, yeah, she was worried about us following us or something like that. So she wanted to stop us moving and following her without actually killing us.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, it is slightly weird because she killed the entire crew of a trireme for laying hands on her. Well, I don't imagine they all crowded around and went like that at the same time. So it seems a bit, literally overkill.
I mean, she's royalty.
Yeah,
she's not exactly restrained, I suppose. That's the thing. So,
well, I find it interesting. It's like she's clearly apt to lashing out, but like it was clear that she didn't see us as a threat. That was the thing. It's like she definitely didn't try to kill Zamar. She just wanted to put him down, and when the Lithias got back up again, she just did a more extreme version of it, effectively, to make sure that she stayed down. So, yeah, for what that was, I don't know why she did that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, she did state that she wanted to meet with Lord Match and Rathia.
Yeah.
I mean, we were quite close to the ruined keep at the time. I suppose it's possible that she held off because you might have been something to do with Rathia, which of course you are. Seems a bit restrained, but whereas with the owls, she knew full well that they weren't anything to do with her, so she just killed them.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think that there was too much of a surprise there, I think. Yeah, but so yeah, I think that was... I'm probably reading wrongly into it, but I didn't see that as being... It was clear to me why she chose not to... We were just different and didn't fit into her current thing, so it's like why kill us? It was like, yeah.
And then the other thing, I'm not saying these are massive speculations, but I think it's things worth bringing up because obviously the sessions are quite dense, so it's easy to forget these things. Her chests had massive handles on them.
Yeah, see, that feeds into my theory that, if she can give herself a massive head, she can probably give herself big hands, for carrying chests.
Yeah, I suppose if you were a dragon and you were carrying chests. But again, like, why not fly? Right?
Well, the thing is, there is the assumption of what you said earlier about what are gods, but what are dragons? Maybe what, like you said, what we consider a dragon isn't what a dragon is in this world at all. Maybe it's something that looks more like an Astravi, for example.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that, yeah, exactly. Because I agree with the handles. It's like, I mean, I suppose if you had claws for hands, I mean, obviously she was like strong, but those handles.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you were a dragon and you're flying around, you got claws. Here's a question for you, Simon, which I probably can't ask because it's the sort of thing I got to roll for as a character. In this world's myths and legends, how many legs do dragons have?
4.
4 legs.
Yeah.
And then wings.
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't fit.
So yeah, in myths and legends, they're the same as you would imagine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. See, if you'd said 8, then that would have been quite.
Well, that's the point. That's what I don't get. It's like the Astravi are sort of related and yet not related. It's like they've got 8 appendages. It just doesn't make any sense. So I don't know where those. I mean, I guess if you had blades for hands, you might use the chest. You might need chests with big handles. You know,
but if I recall, the Astravi, they had to pick them up 2 at a time as well, right? Like 2 Astravi needed to pick up 1 chest. So even then, it's not like super convenient for them because otherwise one Astravi would have been able to pick up 1 chest.
Yeah. I mean, I know those chests are like crazy. I also want to know exactly what's in them, and I'm very annoyed that I didn't like check deeper.
Well, 1 was corrupted, right? Or at least it was seeping the mist.
Yeah,
there was
but then magic items leak mist in the presence of events like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because she also had when you cut through her, she had blackness coming off of her.
Yeah, it wasn't
something?
like mist though, was it?
No.
It was just absence of stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which, could be shadow, it could be something else entirely. I mean, it does make you wonder what they are, really.
Okay. So, because I just wrote an additional crackpot theory down.
Okay.
But what if the corruption, because you talked about a shadow realm, right? Or a shadow plane of some kind. But what if the corruption is that realm merging with our own, and that realm has some kind of overlord that's trying to come into the world? And for example, also, when you get corrupted, you seem to be doing some quite self-destructive acts in the end. So what if that is you ultimately trying to join that person or that entity in the other world? Which in this case, then, if she is dragon blood, and she is made of some sort of darkness, maybe she is also connected to that realm, which makes her more susceptible to being taken over. I know that's really far out there, but wild speculation.
It's all good. So, has Rathir encountered shadow stuff aside from that dead bug? I'm not sure he has.
Yes.
Has he?
Yeah. So, well, back when we were in Lauf.
Oh, right. Okay. No, no, I got you. Okay. Is there any parallel between what I saw inside the princess and what Chris is talking about?
There is an interesting question. You can imagine my expression because you've seen that expression many times. Yeah. That really is a session thing, I think. But I would make a note and let's run it in session.
Yeah, I think it was
that is interesting. Yeah, there are connections. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's gonna be hard to do that session where we want to go through and ask a bunch of questions. But
I think it's good because you're role playing so hard your characters that you're deliberately not doing certain things. You're deliberately not speaking about certain things. Which means this kind of open speculation is literally impossible.
Exactly.
So it's good to have this to allow you to think things through and then try and have a conversation in character.
Exactly. I know. I think that's one of the things. It's like, because Zema's got a bunch of theories, but he just often gets shouted down by her other theories. Just like, this is boring. Whenever him and Adalbert get going on something, like there's always like.
There's a sort of built-in switch to keep the action going because he gets bored easily.
I know.
Yeah.
I think as a meta thing about the stream, I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's like if Zamar and Adalbert start wittering on too long, and then Rathir is like, "Oh, this is boring," but it's brilliant that I think it's fantastic because it just stops us going off on one. Dear. Yes.
So obviously the Astravi turned up shortly after you were looking at the chests and things. The princess then had a conversation with Starrock via some means, telepathy or otherwise.
Full of echoes. Yes.
What the fuck do you think they talked about?
Yeah, but I mean that's when he started acting weird because he was not giving Adalbert what Adalbert would consider the proper respect.
Yeah.
And then they went somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes, it was for her to change. You see,
Yeah.
this is a great example of how I've managed to compartmentalize the way I normally roll.
Yeah, exactly. But even if then, it's like, what would be interesting is, like, one of the things that Zamar wants to do, and I need to make a note of it for the next session so he can talk to Adalbert. Let me make a note here, is how, because I think Adalbert was trying to work this out anyway, but we were trying to figure out how far they could fly in the same time that it took them to go and then come back with a reasonable amount. Like, there's a maximum distance that they could fly. So, like, I wanted to change, but that's plenty of time to go and fly and visit Rogerton, for example. Or do whatever.
She did bring her chests with her when she landed at the Ruined Keep, didn't she?
No.
Oh. Okay, nice. I'd not even thought about that. They're so frappy. Well, who gives a toss? That's her luggage.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no chests with all those magic items, which have now been conveniently dropped off somewhere in range of Rogerton, or where can you get to in range of where? And how long were they gone for?
Quite a while, because you spoke to... this is when you first met Samita.
Yes, exactly. So it's like a couple of hours, wasn't it? 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember offhand, but it was definitely hours, yeah.
Yeah. So it's plenty of time to fly to Rogerton and back, or wherever else you need to go in the nearby. So we're not going to find that out.
Yeah, obviously, depending on the speed and all the rest of it. But they've got a... there's a triangle involved, isn't there? The point at which they left us, wherever they went, and trim it. In 3 hours. So, and she did get changed. I mean, I don't suppose it takes her that long, but you know.
No, but even so, exactly. It's like what
she did her hair and things. Takes a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, she put a lot of effort into her appearance.
Yeah, or she can shapeshift and it just happened like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then we get to the speculation of Smita is Raina is someone. Who the fuck is she?
Yes.
Well, yeah, she's obviously well known to the princess. She's obviously a Rassian. Now, it's entirely possible that you know, she's legitimately in the Empress's service, and no one has thought it suspicious simply because nobody really goes into a Rassian and knows what they look like.
I mean, it's possible that she has.
It's possible she's a spy.
She's a spy, but
don't tell Kevin.
And Serene immediately called her pureblood.
Yeah, exactly.
That was rude.
Yeah, but that was interesting as well, and that's what I still come back to is like, how was she able to see? Like, what was it that was actually like? If it is racial features that like that, and that means that you're pure blood, then that's really kind of interesting. Unless that Serene can see something that we can't.
Yeah, no, that's also possible. So, age-wise, what's the difference in age between Raina and the princess?
I don't know exactly what the indication would be, Simon.
It's getting towards the end of the night, so my mental acuity is not immediate.
Great, he'll give something away.
I'm trying to remember. So, right. It's only a few years.
Okay.
So I'll leave that with you while I'll look it up for you.
Right. Okay. So radical speculation n+1 is that in order to remain stable, the powers that be in Arashi would have to limit their transformations in order to avoid corruption. Otherwise, they would be the most corrupted place on the planet. The princess seems relatively immature, therefore she rebelled against these restrictions and left, and that's why she's changing at the drop of a hat, because she's being unwise about it. And the fact that she's doing that suggests that you don't come into these powers until you reach a certain age. So Raina just might not have reached there yet.
But when you mean those powers, like, what do you mean by those powers? And do you mean anything to do with, is that what being a dragon means? Like, that's what I don't get.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the case, that they've effectively assimilated into you know, mortal realms or more human realms, but the powers manifest themselves and they can even potentially transform completely into an entire whole dragon. But they got all these other things they can do as well.
Maybe they're keeping it a secret as well, like completely.
Yes, maybe you know.
So yeah, there's a few years between them, but not many.
Who's older? I mean,
Don't ask a lady that.
no, I'm asking the DM.
You'd have to roll for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, it's so funny. It's just, yeah, I
you
still
want me to
don't
roll
buy
now?
that. I still don't buy
you can do if you want, yeah.
Or better still, I should wait until I'm not knackered, and then I might actually succeed.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then you would say that, wouldn't you?
Nice.
Probably would. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I still don't. For me, I still don't understand what it like. Serene thought that because Samita stroke Raina was a pureblood, she thought that she might be a dragon as well. And this is what brings me back to this whole lineage kind of thing. That I wonder if what's left behind. I wonder if these, like, the Princess Mayanaras of this age, because they've got royal heritage and they are pure blood of royalty, and that is because they are descended directly from dragons, from however many thousands of years ago it was. I mean, who knows how long an age is? They're just like, it's an age. That's really, like, how long is that? About 1,000,000 years? 1,000 years? I think it's, I can't remember, somebody might have said that, but that's what I wonder. That's why I don't think that they're dragons in that sense.
You just refuse to believe.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm just not so sure. I just don't see that. I just don't see it. Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is that Serene doesn't think that Samita or Raina is a dragon because she didn't convert her. So even though she's a pureblood, she's clearly not a dragon, which again is, what? What does that mean?
Well, she does have a connection with the Huntress. That might be something that...
So look, Serena's in the room. She does this thing which emanates out and hits Raina.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
Hits you
effect.
stronger, so you're not a dragon. Oh, yeah. So, but she does this thing, and then she's okay with, like, Samita afterwards, because she's like, "Oh, you're not a dragon."
Well, she said she wasn't sure, right? This was one of the tests that she
Oh, right.
did.
Okay.
So I think it was like, doesn't seem to be,
hmm
but I don't think that she was sure about it.
But it was kind of like, because of the way you looked, which makes me wonder whether there is something that either, like, whether you're emanating an aura that she can see.
Right.
That's what I don't understand. It's like she looked at you and went, "You're a possible pureblood," which makes me wonder, because we've seen her eyes go black, haven't we?
Who are you talking about?
Serene.
Anyway, she was corrupted.
Yeah, you thought it was connected to corruption at the time. Yeah.
I wonder if that is like some kind of site where she could, because we've seen her use it. Her eyes have gone dark or whatever, and she's out there. But like whatever it
We've
is.
seen other people.
Sorry.
We've seen other people whose eyes have gone dark, and that's been related to corruption.
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
Yeah.
you know, you could be right, but
Yeah, no, I know. But
She didn't
I get
show
what
that
you're saying.
either in the room.
So the thing that I find interesting is that Serene is clearly capable of looking for this race of like descendants, I think, and I think that that's what she means by dragons, because they're more susceptible. So if you're descended from a dragon or whatever, then I think that you're more susceptible. But that's why I don't think that they're dragons, because you're just descended from a dragon. But that would make sense as to why she's, like able to manifest a bit of a dragon potentially, or be a dragon for a bit, maybe. I don't know. I'm just the Princess Minara thing being a dragon doesn't add up, and I'll be proved massively wrong.
Zamar, dragon hunter.
Yeah, she'll suddenly turn into a dragon next time we meet her, and I'll be like, well, I was wrong.
There's Zamar.
Yeah, munch.
Can I ask you guys a question? Has Adalbert or Alethea got any ability to sense corruption in people? Like when it's not visibly present?
I think
They seem to. At least they pretend they do.
yeah, that's true actually, because Alethea keeps talking about it or whatever. I know that Adalbert has said, "All right, we've tried to cure your corruption," or that they once very, with a very bad idea, decided to corner Zamar about it once and question him about the fact that you're very corrupted and we're really worried about you. And it's just like, it's like, don't put Zamar in a corner ever.
Was he next to a window by any chance?
Well, that's one of the things. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's just a very bad idea to put Zamar.
Nobody puts Zamar in a corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the reason I ask is because Serene's ability seems to be to use corruption to spot dragons, right? But that almost, if dragons have some kind of magical element to them as well, then it must be a sort of magnetism, right? She wants to see if any of the corruption responds specifically to that person more than it does to the average person.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. That's a good theory. That is a good theory, is to like see if, it's kind of like, I put corruption out and it like sticks to...
Yeah, exactly.
It sticks to you, it's like...
But that's a weird thing for a servant of the Huntress to do if, for example, Adalbert gets the ability to sense corruption without needing to throw to sense corruption.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I would imagine that they would be related, that kind of protection.
Yeah, I suppose, but it's a slightly different thing.
You're right.
If you're right, you're saying she's using corruption to trigger something to reveal the princess as a dragon, whereas being able to see that someone's corrupted is slightly different.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but still, I would imagine that the Hunters would prefer people to use her powers to detect anything rather than to use corruption, I guess.
You'd think that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The thing that I find fascinating, though, is that Serene is always, and this is something that has actually only just occurs to me. It is interesting how Serene has suddenly suddenly appears to have disappeared just at the moment when the princess is around, and never seems to be quite around when the...
Well, it kind of makes sense. If she's unstable and she's a dragon hunter and the princess is pretty volatile and is a dragon, let's assume, then having him in the same place is probably not a sensible thing to do.
But she's hunting him down. She's hunting her down. It's like she could quite easily have stuck around and waited for the princess to arrive if she was a true dragon hunter and actually tried to assassinate her.
Right, okay, but now Serene is pretty pokey. She's very useful, as Frathe might say, if she's on your side. But we don't know anything about hunting dragons at all, assuming she is one, a dragon hunter that is.
Yeah.
It might be that in order to take a dragon out, if she's ever done it before, she needs like 50 people with her. And she hasn't got them.
Then why send us?
Because we're disposable. She doesn't like Frathe very much.
Yeah, but that's just a waste of time and energy and resources to like send us out there to do something.
But despite the fact she doesn't like Frathe, she still recognizes he's quite a powerful individual, from a certain point of view. So it might be
From Harathe's point of view.
send Frathe in. If he dies, it'll at least soften her up, and I'll be able to finish the job.
Well, but there's also the fact that didn't Harathe send her away in advance of the princess arriving? Right? There was the whole, like, I don't want that fight
definitely.
here.
But, like, if I was Serene and I was a dragon hunter, I would have gone back down to my ship and then snuck out, swum under the water, and then snuck out and then assassinated her, or tried to have done something like that.
Well, that presupposes she's able to do it on her own and stuff. I mean, I take what you're saying, but
obviously, when you've got an honor guard of 50 Astravi, it's not the best time to go and try and assassinate somebody. But
if I'm inclined to disarm Serene every time she gets close to the ruined keep, then perhaps that's not the best situation for her to be in.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I was just going to say, but, she might have had an inclination not to upset Harathe on the matter, even if she really wanted to assassinate the princess there, but she might have legitimately respected his input of don't do that here right now.
Like there's a lot of Harathia raising on a pedestal on it.
Well, he likes to put himself there, but I mean, there's also, she didn't say that she was sure she was a dragon. And she obviously has certain things that she can do to try and test whether someone's a dragon. And it could be, I might be giving her too much credit, that she actually doesn't want to snuff anyone unless she's completely sure they're a dragon, and she's not ready to do that yet.
But weren't we told to kill her?
We were told she was a Marc, yeah, which... But I mean, in our conversation...
Things don't add up. This is what I'm saying.
I did say, what if I capture her instead of kill her? And that was, she didn't say, no, you must just kill her. She didn't insist on it being a kill.
It's also worth pointing out that Serene tends to turn up with Rek.
Yeah, that is interesting as well. Yeah. And where is Rek?
Yes.
Well, he's a ranger,
right.
isn't he? So he's a ranger, Trillin's in the middle of a forest.
Yeah.
He could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. So this is true, actually. I hadn't actually thought about that as well. Like, Rek could totally be just hanging out and waiting to assassinate her right now. Well, at least that way we'll find out if she's a dragon or not. This is what I think. It's like one way we'll either get rid of Serene or we'll get rid of the princess.
All right, so we've got just a couple of minutes left before we wrap up. So any last minute, very high-faluting ideas, speculation? What's the big idea, or what do you want to do next with this thinking that you've had today? Are there any plans of action that you want to go ahead with?
What, from a character point of view?
Yeah.
Well, I think that Zamar, when he's got a spare moment, wants to do a little bit of analysis with Adalbert. That's for sure. He's got a couple of theories about the boat painting and things that he wants to raise, but he definitely wanted to raise the how far can a fully laden Astravi fly.
so there's that. Okay, so Harathe's takeaway from this whole thing is that we need, as a force, if you like, we need to eliminate Rogerton as a threat. In order to test our ability to do so, he had got no idea how this might be done, but Rogerton is not defending, as far as we know, in the way that Lauf is. It has darkness spewing out of a crack in the ground. We need to find some way of actually dealing with it so that we know we can, and that we can possibly take the fight to them at some point. that's what he's got.
Mm.
Ah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, but yeah, it's like how the hell do you even deal?
No,
I mean,
I know, but he's the sort of guy, as leaders sometimes are, that knows what he wants doing and leaves it to other people to work out how.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like there's no way you want Rogerton being 50 miles away.
Yeah,
like that's just such a massive threat.
Yeah,
like,
because the alternative of not dealing with it is that it becomes fortified in a way that Lauf is, and then we've got
an army on our doorstep.
Such massive problems.
That's why I was worried about those. That's why I was worried about Beziel heading for Rogerton, because I was like, oh, if that happens, that's going to be really bad for Trillin. That does not bode well for Trillin or the Ruined Keep at that point, because these things are sitting right on our doorstep and able to just roll in anytime. So yeah, but I don't even know how we start closing up the cracks or doing anything like that. But
no, not at all. But then that's why we've got a librarian and stuff.
Oh yeah, let's hope that there's something in those books that we gave him.
Yeah, so I mean, there's also that point about the similarity between, the inside of the princess and all that sort of stuff. But that's a thing to remember to point out or to ask. But it's not going to occupy Rathia's thinking, because it's not a plan of action. It's just a thought.
Yeah, Reyna can't bring that up at all because she doesn't know. So.
No.
And then the final thing that Zamel wants to at least ask Adalbert and or Alithia to do is to see if they can examine and find out, or whether we can at least ask the Huntress, like, what were those things looking for? Like, we need to find out what were those things hunting for. It's like, what is on the ground that they're looking for? Is there something that we're missing that we can't see that's right there in front of us, or whatever? Is there like traces of corruption on the ground? Is there traces of dragon's blood on the ground? Is there whatever it is? I don't know. That's what I think is very important going into the next, is to like find out what those things were looking for. Like, because if we can find out what they're looking for, then we know how they hunt, and then we know what to protect. It's like leaving tracks behind, and you don't even know if you're leaving tracks behind. Like, you can turn around and cover your tracks, right, with a branch or whatever, and make sure that nothing can see where you're coming from. But if we're leaving behind, or if she's leaving behind, or if this princess is leaving behind some kind of tracks, and we don't know that they're there, and they can track them by it, then we should find out about that. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Reyna's just occupied with not dying.
yeah, I was about to say, after that, assuming that Samita Reyna survives, Samita wants to find out what the state of Rogerton is. So,
yeah, she's very interested. But first we're going to find out. Well, she's going to find out if she can persuade or potentially deceive a god. So it's going to be interesting.
Yes. Whatever happens, it will be interesting.
Yes.
All right. So I introduced this and sort of thought this might be a good session because, Mr. Harris, you pointed out in one of the Q&A sessions that we have these times when the players are speculating and I'm in bed. But it also occurred to me that...
Sorry, it's worth pointing out that exactly how this happens. We used to go away and like hire out a cottage and play D&D all weekend, which was amazing. Simon would DM all day, and then Chris and I would stay out with a bottle of wine.
Sounds amazing.
A bottle of wine, just shooting the ideas for like hours on end. And then, because we had endless energy.
Yeah, it was amazing, and we should definitely do that again when we get the opportunity after things have calmed down, lockdown-wise. But it turns out, actually, during the session, I was thinking, quite often we have these speculations mid-session as well, with other characters who are more speculative. So actually, this is a good way of filling in that gap, because... characters like Herathia don't have those kind of conversations.
You get bored very easily.
Yeah, so I think in a way it's actually worth repeating this again, even when we have a full group of players.
Yeah, definitely.
We should make them watch this.
Well, Mads caught a lot of it.
That's true.
So Yeah.
a requirement for the next session that you catch up.
Yeah. Important things were discussed. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for watching, everyone, and thanks for following Dungeon Glitch. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a glitch. And thanks.
You've been accidentally watching us.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin, for joining us again for a speculative session, being a guest on the show. Everyone should watch Tales of a Deer on Chaotic Stupid Media on Sunday at 4. Well, actually, it's 4:30. You do a start, but it's really 5 BST.
Yeah, it's really 5
is the
BST,
session.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be a TPK next week. So.
Yeah, it was heading that way. I did wonder when you stopped the session if that was partly because it might be a TPK.
No. It was purely because I didn't want to kill a character where the player wasn't there. So
Yes, no, that's fair.
I'm not going to do that.
That's fair.
But yeah.
You gotta wait to do it to their face, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So please do follow and subscribe, and we will see you next week for a full session when Samita will be addressing a god.
So brilliant.
The most awkward thing is going to be if she accidentally still does the impression back to her.
Yeah, speaks to the huntress as the huntress.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Stop repeating me. Stop. You keep saying everything that I'm saying. You keep saying everything that I'm saying.
I'm sure that would really make things better. That's really going to smooth over the cracks between the two. All right, yeah. So we'll see you next week, and thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.